What's happening, everybody? Hope you're having an excellent Wednesday. We got something very special for all of you here that we don't do very often inside of our communities, where we're highlighting a story of one of our clients who has been not only an absolute thrill to work with, but someone who has been at it in their practice for some time and wasn't quite seeing the momentum and the growth that they ultimately wanted to have, and joined in on the programs that we have here at Clinical Marketer, and is just one of those individuals that just takes action right away. Doesn't, even if it's challenging, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, and does the hard work that is required to be successful in the world of cash physical therapy, and has a very unique practice structure. And so today we're going to be highlighting his story, because I know it's going to inspire a lot of those inside of this group that might be at the point where they're questioning themselves if they have what it takes, if all of this effort is worth it. And so hopefully you all get a little bit inspired here today, and you walk away from this interview with some tips and some new ways of thinking that can help you turn the corner inside of your. So I'm talking about Dr. Jesse. Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know you have a family, you have a million things to do as a practice owner, but you're taking the time out of your day to share your wisdom and your journey with us. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that intro, Jordan. That's awesome. I'm just thrilled to be here. I've been excited to give back to the community. So happy to be here, share, hopefully impact a few people, but I'm excited. So
but without a doubt, I know you've watched a lot of these videos before ever joining. So we know that this is gonna change some lives here today, which makes it even better. So before we get started, can you just give everyone kind of a quick tee up into who you are, your practice, who you help, and a little bit just on your background?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Jesse Cullen-Dupont. I've been practicing for 14 years now. I graduated PT school 2010. I was living in the city, Brooklyn at that time, working in the city. 8 years ago, I actually moved upstate with my wife and my two kids. They're 7 and 9 now, and we love being here. And fast forward a little bit, today, here now, I'm proud owner of my own practice. It's called Whole Person Physical Therapy. It's just an incredible feeling to have a practice and to get to that point. So I'm excited to share a little bit of where I was and how I got here. But yeah, so I can kind of jump into, I think, the backstory a little bit of how I got to where I am now. Is that okay if I just kind of go into that?
Yeah, please. Yeah, rip it.
All right, cool. So, I can say that I've been practicing for a while, and I would say that over the first decade or plus of being a physical therapist, I never thought about business. I think I actively avoided all business so I can really just focus on, clinical care, which I am passionate about. I still am, but it was really just like where I focus, and that's what gave me energy, is that. So that was really, I didn't really have thoughts of opening my own practice probably until like 2022, when I actually made the switch from kind of traditional orthopedics to home care. So really during that transition, and just a little more backstory, my main focus when I was finding jobs was really just like, can I maximize one-on-one time with clients? Because that's what I enjoy most. So when I made the switch to home care, 2022, the primary motivation was really just like finding a better job. It was, better pay. It was more one-on-one time, but it also became this I think is the opportunity that I need to actually start my own thing. And I think I always had a little bit of the thought in my mind, but I never really thought I would ever do it. But, this transition, it was really a time for me to like reflect. I had time to think about like what I really wanted. I was starting to look on the internet, found you guys, and I'll get more into that. But I really made this switch because it was something I wanted to really make a bigger impact with. So when I made my switch to home care, it allowed me to do a few things. It helped me. I was also trying to get over like a non-compete clause. I could work as a part-time employee and build up slowly, which I ended up doing. And so I really started off, I saw my first client 15 months ago, and then I eventually built up slowly. And 8 months ago, I went full-time. And that's when I joined Booked at that time. So that's just a little backstory. I'm happy to dive in more of different parts of it, but just to give you a little idea of kind of where I was and how I started to think about trying to make a bigger impact, which would be opening my own business.
No, and I think that backstory is so important because so many people are there. They never expected that they would want to start their own business. They were solely focused on being the best provider they can, transforming people's lives. And suddenly they start to realize that this isn't going to take me to the place where I hoped it would, where I kind of life that I wanted to have, where I can have the kind of impact I want to have, but also be the kind of partner and parent that I always wanted to have, or always wanted to be. So I think that context is really, really important. Can you just quickly describe like your practice? Because you're not out of a traditional brick and mortar. So you can just go in a little bit of the detail on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So my practice, one of the unique part, I think it's out of a back extension of my home. So it's a home business, which is like, that's pretty life-saving, not having to drive an hour somewhere, but to walk down the hallway too. So that's a wonderful thing. So yeah, just a little background on my practice. I generally work with, I would still say like the general ortho world, but it's a little bit more geared towards people who want like a whole person, holistic approach to care, not just like one body part, and who just generally care about their health. So I do live in a little bit of a health community. So it really kind of vibes very well with my approach to care in general. But yeah, it's the practice of my dreams. Like I really thought about like, what do I want the experience to be? And I did have some time before I opened up with like a non-compete that I was respecting, but it just gave me, with the help of a lot of the content that you were putting out there, to really think about how do I want to build an experience? And I think in order to provide the care that I wanted to, it had to be the whole thing, which does require business skills and learning that. But yeah, it's a great practice. I'm working 5 days a week, seeing people one-on-one for an hour, and just really trying to hone in on the entire experience from start to finish, that first touch point all the way through. And I think being able to build a skill set of, the marketing, the sales, everything that I learned through this process, it's helped me to provide just better care, like beyond clinical skills. The business skills that you get are part of the care that you need to provide. So,
right. Yeah. And that's the part that so many people, well, it's really just not talked about nearly enough. So people just have no idea that in cash physical therapy, in order for people to come to the conclusion that you're worth more than a copay, the experience can't feel the same as just going to an in-network clinic. And most people, they just replicate the exact same thing that they've been doing at a different setting, hoping that people are going to see that you're worth, potentially twice as much as the copay that they've been paying. So that patient experience part is so incredibly important. I'm excited to dive into it. Before we do though, real quick, talk us through the numbers. Now, sure. I know when you started with us, you've pretty close to doubled your practice since working with us, generated over 6 figures in about 6-7 months of us working together. But yeah, just layer into that a little bit for us.
Just like all the numbers, or just like the monthlies, or just all of that?
Yeah, whatever is bubbling up for you. I'm curious. I don't want to.
Yeah, I think like numbers wise, what's always funny is I think one of the things that you've said a lot is just like, it's normal. It's like 10 to 30K a month is normal. And I think your ability to normalize things was like so helpful, because before I did it, it definitely didn't feel normal, but to be a little bit on the other side and just like, it is normal if you go through that process. It's hugely helpful. But yeah, so I'm charging like $250 per visit. I'm doing kind of the packages, which have been, and I had all that before I started with a lot of the information. So I'm glad I got into good habits early on. Packages have been going really well. I think, again, the whole pre-framing as you get towards the actual evaluation is so helpful to really just have that conversation early on and set expectations throughout the entire journey. But yeah, so at this point, this past month, I think I did almost 16K for that month.
Let's go.
And it's been building. When I transitioned to work with Booked, that was actually the first day that I was full-time. So I was like, it was no more of the part-time stuff. And like I was fully in. So I think it's one of the main motivations I wanted to start then with you, is because just like having that safety net, being able to learn how to market better, sales, just all the other pieces that I had a lot of it as a foundation from your like just being in your world for a while, but to put it all together through that program really helped me to get to the next level and really build things out as I went full time.
Yeah, and does it feel normal to you now?
It does. Like it actually does feel a little normal, because if it's been a year or so at a certain level, like it does. You do normalize, but when you're, I remember when it didn't feel normal, and it happens. You normalize when you go through the process, and you can see progress each month. So it feels good to be on this side, but I do remember when it didn't feel normal. But I think the more all the case studies, all the evidence that you've kind of put forth through the program has really helped myself really see that this process could work for people like me. So it was a very helpful part of it.
Yeah, it's one of those weird subconscious things where if we put it up on a pedestal, it's always going to be forced to look down at us, and it's always going to be just out of reach. Yeah. But as soon as it's normal, all of a sudden, like, you get there. It's just one of those kind of like woo-woo things that's just, it's weird, but it's true. As long as you think it's like crazy, it's like it's always out of reach. So tell us, what were the things that were holding you back, or things that you were struggling with before you joined the Booked Partnership Program?
I think I think I mentioned like the unknown unknowns of like business. Like I really didn't know anything about business because I never had a business. So I think it was, again, I wanted to know how to put everything together. I wanted to know how to deliver the service that didn't just look at one part, just marketing, just sales, but like really could take a step back at the entire process and how things fit together. And again, all of the modules and training really helped connect the dots. And like, that was such a big part of learning how to operate a business more effectively, but also communicate better. So yeah, a lot of those things together were really, really helpful. But yeah, I think to get back to your question, I was just struggling with I didn't know, my skill set wasn't quite there. I think going into Booked, one of the biggest things is just the expertise of the people in the room and the trainings, and like seeing people who do it day in and day out and teach it. And just like, I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. So I think the learning once I was in the program really elevated, just seeing in real time how to do Facebook ads, how to do sales, how to set things up in the system. So I think the expertise within the program really took it to another level for me, and just like my learning process as well.
Yeah. And what were some of those, or like one of the unknown unknowns that you were maybe neglecting before we started working together?
I think it was just how important communication is. Like, and I think on a lot of different levels, I think from, just the questions you ask for the prospect is going to determine so much of like how they think about things, how they perceive things. So I think understanding why we're asking certain questions, and like just improving communication with another person in this whole journey. I think also just being able to have so many touch points before you meet someone. Like the thought of meeting someone without ever having an interaction as a first point, like in an evaluation where someone walks in cold, like, hey, and you have to build this rapport. It's like, to think that's a process versus having all of these touch points, all of these phone calls, all of these messages that get sent, where you're just building trust and like so much more before you even meet them. And also understanding what they need, what they want. It's such a beautiful process when that's in place and dialed in, to help you in like their entire journey. So I think just learning and being able to implement those things to help kind of communicate those things better to clients.
Yeah, 100%. It's just such a more difficult battle when someone maybe schedules with you, but they're coming in completely blind. They don't really know what to expect. They've never paid cash for something. They don't know like what the next step's going to look like. They don't know what recommendations you're going to make. They don't really know you. And so it's like you're fighting the weird awkward breaking the ice moment. You're breaking that tension. You're trying to reframe their thinking in the value of cash versus in network, while you're trying to get them to see why they need a certain number of visits and what it's actually going to do for them. And this is just like, there's so much resistance if we're not helping shift beliefs and get people excited about coming in to see you and showing them like what they can actually accomplish by working together with you. Those systems really, it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, like, what were 1 to 2 things that you feel were the biggest needle movers that you took away from the book partnership program so far?
I think I would definitely say Facebook marketing was like game changing, and just understanding just how to do it. So that's like, but also learning the process of like how to, make creatives differently, how to read the metrics, and like really having more control over that entire process. And I think, I think Facebook marketing, being able to better market like who you want to see show up in your clinic, and like really dial in, your avatar that works for you, and thinking about like, who do I work best? Who do I give the most value to? Can I create a message that speaks to that person right there? It's a really powerful way of getting people into your world in a very like directed way, versus just like generally people looking for physical therapy. So I've had a lot of success through Facebook, like the quality of people, because I think I've just been able to deliver a more precise message to those folks. So I think when I started, the advertising was definitely more general, but to start to like really communicate in a more focused way who I would really like to see and speak to that person through marketing has been really helpful. But yeah, Facebook advertising has been an incredible way of working beyond just the organic traffic, the word of mouth. So that's been really helpful. I think the Dream 100 kind of process has been really great as well. It's been very exciting for me to just welcome people like into my world. Like, I'm excited to share what I do. So I've definitely, I know someone in the program mentioning like offering a free evaluation to community partners that have like the people that you would like to work with. So that's been very helpful for me, of meeting a lot of yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, just welcoming them to my space and like working with them. So it's been a great way of building relationships in the community. It's been fun. Like, I've been enjoying meeting people, not trying to really expect anything, but just like, I would like to meet some people in this area and connect and be helpful in any way I can. But it feels good to kind of build like a network, also for the clients that I see, to easily refer people to helpful people as well. So that's been a main approach for me, is to try to build more of a network in the community that I live in.
I love that you're putting that to work, and thank you so much for saying the the most important part of networking: doing it without any expectation of getting anything back, and having fun with it, building real relationships, not just the illusion of, being friends when really you're just like trying to get something out of them, and that just sabotages so many people when wild. How is like everything that you've done? You've obviously worked really, really hard to get to the point where you're at. You've focused so intensely on creating a truly great client experience, which is worked out for you. Clearly, you're selling packages, you have premium rates in the $250 range, you're building the relationships. I'm curious, like, how has the things that you've done so far working with us impacted things outside of business?
It's funny, ever since I started, like, I've worked out every day. Like, I was trying to fit in. I was like, where do I work out in this context of business? It's like, should it be in the middle of the day? And it was terrible. It kind of threw everything off for me. We have to like wake up early. At the same time, I tried to make that habit as consistent as coffee drinking, just like coffee, then working out. So I've been very consistent from a health perspective, and that's been exciting just to be more consistent with that. I work from home, so like sometimes I can hear the kids, like, but it's close to home, and the kids kind of see me go to work, kind of setting that example as well. But it's been fun. Like, I really am very fulfilled in what I'm doing here. And so it's obviously spilled into like family life in a very good way. Financially being able to provide more for the family as a whole. Having more time to work out, pick up the kids, drop off the kids as a fairly busy parent. Not as busy as when it's like really young kids, but still, there's a demand there in a good way. But I would say all avenues of life are better because of this. So I really feel, very happy and fulfilled.
Good. Are you keeping up with your non-negotiables? We got working out. How are the rest of them going?
They're pretty good.
Yeah. Wait, which one's the hardest?
Are you saying for the?
The non-negotiables, like journaling, doing something to learn every single day, spending time with family, hydrating.
I got this big old. I got. That's pretty.
There we go. Yeah.
They're all. I would say probably the journaling, maybe a little bit. That might slip a little bit, but definitely the family time. I mean, in my mind right now, it's really like health, family, business. Those are kind of the three biggest buckets. So, but I feel I've been able to be more present. I've had more time like at home versus like I was before this, the home care job, I was traveling an hour and then an hour back. So there was, logistically, it's a lot easier to work at home. But yeah, I think I'm doing pretty well. Not perfect, of course, but still working on it.
I love it. What's the goal? Like, what's the next thing that you want to accomplish going into 2025?
I think it's, I'm a solo show for now. Who knows what the future will go. But I think it's just to become more consistent and really try to dial in the things I need to keep track of. So a lot of times, like in business, it feels like there's so many things happening that just trying to refocus. I think a good example, Ben recently put out a video on just like schedule utilization, and just like, if I can solve that, it kind of trickles into everything else. Like, I think revenue kind of gets where it needs to go. If I can just like really focus on how to manage a schedule really well, that's a huge unlock for a lot of other things. But I think it's just to continue to, do what I'm doing for the most part, but just trying to be more consistent with the process. Cause sometimes with like the advertising, it's like, it goes up, it goes down. So I think just trying to find more consistency in business in general. But I'm very happy where I am right now. But we'll see where the future goes. I don't know, but I'm thrilled to be where I'm at.
Good. And you should be. I mean, so many people dream of getting where you are, and most of them don't even think they ever actually will. It takes a lot of strength of character, determination, and just relentless focus in order to do what you've done. So you should be really, really proud of what you've accomplished. I'm really excited to see what you accomplish next. What would you say to anyone who's watching this right now, who's kind of on the fence with jumping on a call with us? I mean, there's so many different programs that are out there to help practices grow, and no one really knows who to trust, what to do. What would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence about joining one of our programs who might be watching?
Yeah, I mean, I would take that leap very, very quickly. And I think before I joined Booked, I was, in your world for like almost like a year and a half, possibly just listening to a lot of the content you were giving, and the amount of value I received from that was incredible. So I think for me, it was a no-brainer once I was ready for that jump that like you were the people I wanted to work with. I do think, again, I think your clinical marketer has your best interests in heart. Like, I really feel the genuine feeling that you want to help people, like, be their best selves, live their best lives. And it's not just about like growing, scaling for everybody. It's like, okay, what do you really want? And like helping people reflect on what they want and using business as a vehicle to get them to where they want to go. And I've just been really floored with just the expertise, like, and the proof. Like, there's tons of, there's just so many stories out there that are really helpful to just keep, for people who are in a different place where they're thinking like, should I do it, to really hear like it's possible over and over again, because there's a lot of truth to that, because it works, and there's a support that's there. And I feel that, again, you have our best interest in heart of like helping us get to that next level. So we really, I'd recommend people to obviously take that step. I really would.
I love it. Well, I appreciate that. And if anyone wants to learn more about you, or maybe reach out to you because maybe they are in a tough leg of their practice, they're thinking about giving out, and they're curious about, maybe getting some advice from you, how can people learn more about you or find you?
Yeah, you could. You can go to my website, wholepersonpt.com. My number's there. Feel free to text me. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me, but feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And again, I appreciate all the help throughout this entire process, through everybody on your team. So excited to also help others.
I love it. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. If you're watching this live, comment live. If you're catching the replay, comment replay. But most importantly, give Jesse some love in the comments. He's got a family. He's got a million things to be doing, but he's here sharing his knowledge and his experience with each and every one of you. So make sure to share that appreciation with him inside of the comments. So Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time for being here. It truly does mean a lot to us, and wish you nothing but the best moving forward. And I can't wait to see what it is that you're able to accomplish over the next 12 months.
Well, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate you and all your help and your whole team. So excited to do it.